This is Tech Addicts. This week we have an announcement. The OnePlus Pad and OnePlus 11 see the light of day. The Honor Magic VS gets torn down. Apple limiting USB Type-C. And Ridley Scott shoots a film on a phone. Welcome to the Tech Addicts Podcast. I am Gareth, the host. This is Ted, the other host.
Hello, everyone, and greetings to you from North Wales. And as usual, I'll give you a weather report because that seems to be what we do. And it's cloudy and kind of mildish and a bit boring. Northern Ireland?
It's cloudy, a bit mildish, and a bit boring. I did hear a spackle of rain during the night, so I'm wondering if that's going to continue on this morning. Mm-hmm. But so far, so good. Not quite anything to report.
Hey, I've added, my TP-Link smart plug that I was talking about last week. I added a little camera to it, and I got the camera working, and I pointed it outside the window, and it all works very nicely. So
at your neighbour, at your hot 40-year-old neighbour who does a lot of bikiniing, sunning herself during the winter.
Actually, my neighbours on the site are all away at the moment, and I'm the only one here. So it's actually quite useful because I can point it at all these empty statics, and I'll be able to see. So it's got a motion detection. It's got a card slot you can put into it. It's got recording. The one thing I don't understand about it, though, is if I'm not looking at the picture on my phone, is the device still using data, streaming anything or whatever to my router and using my bandwidth? That's the bit I don't quite understand. Or does it only actually do anything if I've got it up on my screen and looking at it?
It depends on the camera. Sometimes you'd like to think that it wasn't, but you need to do your package analysis of data going through. Yeah. You never know. As we heard with OPPO last week, they've been, despite not using cloud storage, storing people's stuff on the cloud. So it might be sending stuff back. You just have to.
I haven't done the cloud thing. I've just completely ignored the whole cloud thing. It's only going locally. And I haven't even put a memory card in it. I was just using it to monitor live. My thought was that as long as I'm not looking at it, it probably isn't using any bandwidth. But yeah, as you say, how can you know unless you do some testing, I suppose? I just thought you might know the answer.
Leave it running, go out of the house for a wee while, come back later and see if your data amounts have changed.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, or, well, it's entirely possible that someone somewhere could be sitting watching your stream right now.
Yeah.
Because they're big fans of you.
I don't really mind, because it'll be quite boring. One thing that I thought would be quite useful is, like, if Asda are coming with a delivery, or Amazon are coming for a delivery, or I'm expecting my parents to turn up or something, I can just monitor the situation and go out when they arrive, instead of having to keep looking around the corner to see if they're here yet.
Yes, so that's quite right.
There is that. It's not like having a normal house where you put one up and, like you do, and track deliveries from the postman and stuff, and catch people being naughty.
Well, to be honest, that's somewhat changed. I've noticed last night we had some friends coming round, and they hit the doorbell, and my phone didn't do anything, but my wife's phone did. It suddenly leapt into gear, and I was like, hang on a second. Why is she getting notified and I'm not? But all my notifications are on, and during the night, whenever they left, I got a notification to say someone was spotted on the drive. But at 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock or whatever, whenever they were arriving, it wasn't bothering me with notifications. But then after midnight, when it was in don't disturb mode, it would let me know, because I've allowed that to come through my don't disturb. Because it's important during the night if someone's stealing a car or something like that. I'd like to know about it.
Yeah, definitely.
But, yeah. Yeah.
During the night is another issue, actually, because this one, when I put it up in the hours of darkness, you can't see a bloody thing. It's so presumably
night vision.
I've got a crap cheap camera, and if I paid a bit more, I'd probably get night vision going. But it claims.
But at the same time, night vision doesn't work through a window. So if you're pointing it out a window, the LEDs will light up, and you'll see the reflection of them in the glass window, and you'll see very little. So be mindful of that.
No, I've turned the LEDs off. There's an option to switch them off, and I did that, so it doesn't keep doing, showing them. But it also did say, to be fair, that night vision only works up to 30 feet. So it's probably just a crap cheap one, and I should have spent more and got a better one. But I was just playing about, really.
No, but it's perfect for if you're going away on holiday or something like that. You can leave it there, or if there's another lockdown, you have to go back to your parents' house, you can check in and see how your van's doing while you're not there.
Exactly. As long as you leave the electric on and the router on and everything's still connected.
Yes, as long as you don't cut the power off to your van.
Yeah.
All right, well, we have a little bit of show information. We have an announcement. There is an announcement. It's a big announcement, and Ricky isn't here this week for us to talk about it with him beforehand. So Ted and I have gone ahead and made the decision anyway, or at least I've gone ahead and made the decision, and Ted's just listening to me. We're going to go bi-weekly.
No, fortnightly. Bi-weekly is twice a week. No, it's not.
Oh, right, okay.
Is it?
Yeah, no, bi-weekly is fortnightly, is it not? Bi-weekly.
I don't know.
Occurring every 2 weeks.
I'll whip my
or
dick out.
twice a week. Hang on a second. That's the same thing. No, that's completely different. Periodically, that appears every 2 weeks or twice a week. Okay, so we're going fortnightly. We'll do that. For American listeners, we're going every 2 weeks.
Yes. And why are we
Not
doing
going twice
this?
a week.
What rationale do we have to tell our lovely listeners who will every fortnight now be saying, "Where are you? Where are you? We're looking forward to your podcast."
Well, whenever you boil it down, you get up at 9 o'clock in the morning on a Sunday, your one day off, and you sit and do your show notes, and you read all the stories, make sure that you're 100% about what you're talking about in the show. And then you sit down at 11 o'clock and you talk with Ted Salmon about the happenings and things like that. And then eventually you get together and it's 11:45 now and you're starting to record the show. And then you do a 2-hour show and that takes you up to like 1:45, 1, 2. No, 11:45, 1:45, 1:45. And then I've got another hour's worth of editing after that. But whilst we are seasoned professionals and there's very little edits that need to happen, unlike that projector room mess that we often do. And I just chuck everything out, warts and all. It's usually about 4 o'clock that I'm finishing this and walking away from the computer down to my family, or who are looking somewhat grumpy, going, "Can we go out and do something today?" And it's like, no, it's too late in the day now. So I've decided to try and regain a little bit of my Sunday.
Right.
And I don't think, it's a news podcast, and there's 2 hours of it. I think people will be okay with the idea of just, tuning in every other week for a 2-hour podcast. I don't think people listen to us for 2 hours for every week. That would be insane.
There are some
Anyone
people
who does that is mad.
We do know that there are some people that do that and look forward to it enormously. But the vast majority of people, I think you're right. It's a bit like watching or listening to one of the Twit shows, isn't it? I sometimes turn on Leo Laporte thing and I think, I'll have a look and see what's going on, and then I see that the running time is like 2.5 hours, and I just don't have the energy to start watching it or start listening to it. I think, it's too much of an investment in time. So I think you're right. The majority of people will probably think it's too long and too often. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think people will just go, skip it. I'll listen to next week's one.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'll affect our figures, but it's not affecting our enthusiasm. I think, if anything, this is going to reinvigorate enthusiasm for it, because I don't want to end it at all. I love doing this show, but I want to be able to just enjoy a Sunday every now and again.
Yeah.
Just having a wee bit of time off at Christmas.
Yeah.
It was wonderful not having to fret about what to do.
But,
So I'm going to line it up with Projector Room. So we'll do it the same week as the Projector Room, and that'll be the podcast week, and then a week off, and then the podcast week again.
Okay, I do get that, and I understand. My time is so different to yours, as you know, because I'm just, I've got nothing to do much really, and don't have a job like you, a full-time job, and I completely understand. But anyway, there you go. We shall try it out and see what happens.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this, and Ricky's probably listening to this, well, there you go, Ricky. Now you know.
That's the email you didn't get.
Well, had he been on this week and before, because he sent us apologies before the show because he completely forgotten about it and he's way off doing something today. So he sends his apologies. He wants to get back on the show, but he's going to have to wait. Not next Sunday, but the following Sunday he can come back on if he wants. Mm-hmm. Yeah, all right. So that's all the listeners updated. Yeah. Anything else?
No, I don't think so. Time to get Hardline on the hardware, I guess.
Quite right. Oh, yeah. Yeah. We have a little handheld concept that's coming out from Samsung, and this is called the Samsung Flex, which sounds familiar. I think they've already done this somewhere. And it hopes to compete with the Razer, which is a new handheld gaming contraption that allows you to game on the go. It doesn't look like much at the moment. I think it's just a test product, but it seems to comprise of a flip screen phone style idea with gamepads either side, because cloud gaming is becoming so powerful and so desirable that every company is really having to reevaluate what they can do and wanting to get something out, even if it looks as rough and dodgy as this, because it looks like something that's built for children by Xiaomi,
Tonka.
Yeah. And did you have a chance to look at this? Do you think it looks any good?
I think it's been thrown out at some at CES for like 5 minutes, and some woman apparently demonstrated it for 5 minutes, and no one seems to know much about it really, except that it's a concept, as you say. It's a prototype of some sort, and it looks very Nintendo-ish to me. It looks very kind of, as you say, Tonka toy, and it looks like a toy, doesn't it? But of course, if Samsung ever did make this and put it out there, they would be refining it beautifully to make it look great. The key aspect here is probably the fold up and out screen, revealing an inner screen, which makes it even more like a Nintendo device from the what's it called? The DX3 SL or whatever it was. Yeah. The DS3 XL, which has got 2 screens, one of which was a touch screen and one wasn't, I think. I have to dig that one out of the drawer and play with it again. Anyway, yeah, it looks very interesting, and we'll see what Samsung do with it, if anything.
It'd be interesting as well to see the timeline between us seeing this and when it does hit market. Yeah. And what it ends up looking like, because it's a bluish colour with sort of that style of kind of nasty, tough plastic that kids' toys are adorned with, and then it's got some yellow Joy-Cons, yellow Joy pads, and a few extra buttons as well here and there. I think there's some shoulder buttons as well. You can just about see. So it's almost like creating the function, and then they need to take it away and beautify it and put in some proper buttons, because those buttons aren't worth anything. But yeah, it's a proof of concept device. But I think that if they were to do this with their screen technology and the folding and motorized screen expansions and things like that, they could really turn out a bit of a killer game console.
Yeah.
But then it would probably be priced out of the realms of most families looking to give these to their kids. This would need to be priced quite competitively, because why would you go out and buy this when you can get a Nintendo Switch?
Yeah.
For £300 if this is £1,000.
Yeah, definitely. And leaping down to the last story, of Hardline to the hardware, which would seem pertinent to the topic.
Oh yeah.
Someone else is getting into the gaming business, and unusual, which is Nokia. And they brought out, I know it's not a gaming machine, it's just a game controller, but it looks like everyone's saying that the Nokia game controller 5000 GC is supposed to be, it looks very much like any other controller out there, like a Sony one or
Oh no, there's one in particular. It looks like
right, okay.
of a of a streaming games platform that recently
Oh right,
got shut down.
Well, it's got Hey Google. It's got the assistant built in, so that could say something, I suppose.
Yeah. If you look at the layout is exactly the same as the Stadia controller, although it's got one extra button and the microphone seems to be in a slightly different place.
Yeah.
But everything else is pretty much bang on the Stadia controller.
Interesting, isn't it? So Nokia have kind of dipping their toe in, as well as Samsung possibly. Everyone seems to be getting into this gaming thing. It must be big, like you've always said for months and years now. They're talking about this costing about 50 quid, initially released in India, I think. But 14 hours battery involved in it, and it can be paired up with Android TV, streaming, Android phones, whatever, usual thing, but it'd be interesting to see. There's a bunch of photographs in the link of it in real time, and you're right. They're pushing the whole assistant thing, aren't they? Perhaps Google have done a deal with them.
Possibly, but then Nokia have, I suppose their tablets and things like that have had a lot of. They accent the Google services that are on there and make it sort of one of the big features. Whereas a lot of other manufacturers tend to just take that in their stride. That it's got the Google Assistant on there and things like that. But this actually having it, and the microphone button is coloured in the Google way.
Yeah.
So I'm.
And on the box, it's got the with Google business.
Yeah.
Hey Google.
No,
Whoops,
I think
sorry.
The gaming industry has really come on since the gaming crash of 1983, and I think it's actually bigger than the movie making industry right now. Because they're talking about games that are being released with $300 million budgets and stuff like that. So that's comparable to a couple of movies that come out a year, and you've got multiple games that are going on like that. And I think they can flop harder than movies. At least movies, they can make a bit of money back by selling it to Netflix or something like that. If it's not going to make the money that it usually should do at box office, the movie industry managed to survive COVID, although they had to put a lot of things off. The gaming industry can really struggle, and the big AAA titles, which have massive budgets, or big online multiplayer games, they can die a death, which is quite sad, really, when you think of the level of inventive imagination that's gone into creating these worlds. Like I remember Star Wars Galaxies coming out, and then it shut down a couple of years later. And there's other ones as well. My daughter was playing one from Korea called Black Sand or Black Dawn or something like that for a while, and she was really gutted whenever it was announced that it was shutting down. And then she realised that that's it. It's not like you can jump onto GOG or some sort of old emulator or something like that and go back and replay those nostalgic games that you remember when you were young. These massively multiplayer games, once they're gone, they're fully gone. Despite the fact they might have thrown millions into getting them going. Yeah. And they're just forgotten. They're laid waste. It's a bit sad, really. Whereas a movie can always live another day.
Talking of which,
yes, we'll move on to Ridley Scott, who has picked up a Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, and he's shown you how wonderful your home movies can look.
Have you watched this, Phil?
I did, yes.
Good grief. When I was watching this film, it's only about 2.5-3 minutes long, and I just felt really old. I thought, this is such an aged thing. Towards the end, it got a bit better, but in the first half of it was like, this is someone else's world.
It is, yeah. I suppose.
Anyway, the point.
Some of the places, yeah.
The point of this story is that behind the scene, even though he's claiming to have shot this film on a Galaxy S23 Ultra, and it was kind of held up at the launch as being a wonderful thing that can be done by the phone. Actually, the truth has come out now, and the amount of professional equipment were used to help the phone do it, edited by professional software, and using a cinematographer, Flavio Laviano, to actually do the shooting, blah, blah, blah. And it's obviously that, that Samsung were painting this up. You could do this. You could make this with this wonderful phone. And actually, it's a bit of a different story, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Oddly enough, Fabio Labioni shot a movie called Horizon Line that we were talking about quite recently.
Yeah.
And Jungle Cruise as well, which was which was pretty much just a giant special effect, masquerading as a film.
Right.
But yeah. It is a bit of a cheat, a bit of a swizz. You can make any phone look good if you've got the right lighting conditions and stuff like that. So actually taking the phone out and trying to shoot a movie, it has happened in the past. I remember there was a feature film that was shot entirely on iPhone.
Yeah.
Can't remember what it was called. But
it makes you wonder what was behind that as well.
Yeah.
If you saw the backstory, how much professional stuff really was being used.
But it might inspire people to go out and try and do better. If you were to make an entire feature film based on this phone, not using the rigs that Ridley Scott had to use. Yeah.
Inspirational.
Tis. It doesn't exactly sell the phone any better than it should do. Anyway, we'll move on to OnePlus. We've got a few new headlines regarding the OnePlus, and we're going to start with the OnePlus Pad, which is the flagship Android tablet. It's got the Dimensity 9000 chip inside it and 12 gigs of RAM. This is a good looking tablet with it looks gorgeous from the back. So it's almost like a sort of polished aluminium type feel, but with a circular effect to it, surrounding that unique circular camera module that's set into the tablet there. It looks very nice. But it's coming rocking Android 12L, not 13, but 12L is on there. It's got 144 hertz read fit screen optimized for reading. It's got Dolby Vision, HDR, Dolby Atmos built in there, and a 9,510 milliamp hour battery. It does as you would expect from OPPO based
BBK.
Device. It's got the 67 watt SuperVOOC, so it'll rattle up the charging speeds quite considerably. It's lovely, isn't it, Ted?
It does look nice, yeah. And it's interesting what OnePlus are trying to do here. They're saying that they're sharing a vision for broader ecosystem devices that it calls the OnePlus 4 Plus X model. The 1 is a smartphone at the centre of your technological life. The 4 represents the extra devices that enhance your phone, including earbuds, smartwatches and smart TVs, and now tablets. So yeah, they're trying to pull on the back of Google getting more interested in tablets and Android 12L. They're saying, here's our effort, and we're trying to pull this all together. The 7:5 aspect ratio screen is quite interesting. I was using my Duet the other day. The Chrome OS Duet thingy, Lenovo, and I was using it for quite a while, and I was just plodding along doing what I was doing, and then I got out my Pixel Book, which is a 4:3 aspect ratio, and I was amazed at how much nicer it was. It was so much better than the 16:9 on the Duet, and that aspect rate, I think OnePlus could be right about that they're calling it, as you said, read fit, optimized for reading, offering more vertical space, and I think that's true. Maybe the 16:9 thing is great for media consumption, but when it comes down to reading, which is what I do a lot of, the taller display is much nicer. But yeah, apart from that, it looks really nicely made, doesn't it?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I remember when they released that Pixel book, and they were talking about how it was a screen designed to show the internet as opposed to play media. So yeah, it is one of those things that, this is a very desirable tablet. It looks gorgeous, and people would probably like to have it. But then most people, I'm not saying everyone, but most people would probably end up sticking Netflix and Amazon Prime and all that on it, and watching stuff on the go and being a bit miffed that it's a weird shape.
Well, depending on how much
they want
it
a
costs.
Kindle.
Yeah, but that depends on how much it costs, doesn't it? Because if they pitch this at a ridiculously high price, then not that many people will buy it anyway.
Well, no, it's got the Dimensity 9000 inside it and 12 gigabytes of RAM and that fast charging. So I imagine it's going to be more of a mid-range tablet than a cheap one.
Yeah, definitely.
Better be.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said that. No, it'd be better if it was a cheap one. That'd be great. I'd pick up two of them. and watch movies side by side and put it into 16 by 11. Grand.
Very nice.
Next up is the OnePlus 11, which is launching globally, and it should cost around 700 buckaroonies, which is the official monetary denomination in America. And it's got Snapdragon 8 Gen 2. It's got an upgraded 50 megapixel camera. It's also a gorgeous looking phone. Ted, what is there inside this phone to get your cockles cockling?
I'll tell you what there isn't inside it, is wireless charging. And this has been a bit of a bone of contention with OnePlus because they leapt out of the era of not providing Qi charging into an era when they did, and now they appear to be taking it away again, claiming in some quote, which I read somewhere this week, that people don't need it because this has got super fast 100-watt charging. You don't need to have Qi charging, but that's just not true. People should have the choice, I think. And the amount that it costs to put a Qi coil in it just seems like madness. It's got a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, loads of RAM if you want to pay the extra. The $699 price, incidentally, is for the base model, the 128 gigabyte and 8 gigs of RAM. If you want the 256/16, then it's not a huge amount more, but it is more. It's 749, I think, or is it 799? Can't remember now, but it's one of those two. And it's also got UFS 4.0 storage, which is a new thing that has been enabled because of the Snapdragon Gen chipset
2, yeah.
Gen 2 thingy. So the USF 4 storage is capable on that one. Anyway, it does look very nice. A matter of opinion as to whether you like that round camera island on the back, I suppose. But I don't know. It's quite nice that they've brought back also the side slider. That's the other thing to mention, I suppose. That went away, and so you've got your notification, your noise, your vibration slider on the side. That's nice, and it's great that some firms are still putting physical buttons on their devices. It does look very attractive, I have to agree, but I do think that there are better options out there in many ways, and this is the same incidentally as the Chinese version that came out, but the difference is that it's got Oxygen OS on it and not Color OS. On the Chinese version. I think I've said enough now.
No, I was quite enjoying you running through that. It was very articulate and well presented. It's a lovely looking phone. I like that camera island, and the little chrome accents at the sides of it really add to it. On the black, it looks delicious. Not so much the other colours. I'm just blowing it up to look at it on the full screen now, and yeah, I think I would have that in the black.
I like the green.
Wireless charging is a problem.
Yeah, I do like the green one.
But it's a weird green. It's kind of like an algae green or something like that. Or and I drop this in my dirty fish tank green.
I like green things. They're nice.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well, we'll see going forward.
We will see going forward, because the first thing, the one thing that most people are talking about, it seems, is the Qi charging. But then, the rest of the world seems to be not bothered about Qi charging, and that's what OnePlus are responding to, I think. They're saying, if we provide you with fast cable charging, no one seems to care. They don't mention that you only get fast cable charging if you use the brick in the box and the cable in the box as supplied by BBK. Which people will not quite be probably thinking about when they buy it.
Well, I was quite shocked that the company announced that they were going to fold.
Nice segue. Yes, very nice. They've teased. This is on their launch event this week. At the end of it, they just teased this one shot on the screen, which showed up a folding device. No one knows anything more about it. They reckon it's not going to be arriving until the autumn. There has been leaks and talks about the V Flip and the V Fold, so copying Samsung's efforts and others that are getting into the folding market. We know nothing about this. We don't even know if it really exists. They could be just having a laugh with everyone.
They could do. It does look like a pair of my wife's straighteners, though, the old GHDs there.
Oh, yeah.
You wouldn't know what those are, would you?
I was married once. Twice.
Right.
Twice.
Twice?
Twice.
Did the other wife know? Not at the same time, surely. Okay, Honor. We're jumping on Honor. Honor's going to be mentioned a few times in the show, which is quite exciting. I'm very excited about this. We have the Honor X8A, which has been announced. It's got a 90Hz screen and a 100 megapixel main camera. It's a good looking device, if a little dull, I suppose, when it comes to the camera mount. But it's got flat edges as opposed to, tapered bezels or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah,
I was trying to do that the other day when I was talking about the Reno. It's flat. It's not curved
it's
at the side.
An iPhone clone.
It's more like the iPhone, yeah. And it's got a 6.7-inch Honor edgeless display, which does have an edge. It doesn't go on forever, so I feel that's a wee bit of a silly title for it. You can get 8 gigabytes with 128 gigabytes of large storage, they say. I think the 128 gigabytes is normal storage. It's not particularly large, and it's not too small. It's just in the middle there. If you get the 256, that'll be larger again. I don't know why they called it 128 gigabyte large storage, but I'll let them away with it. And they describe it as an elegant, slim design. I think it's a very nice-looking phone. Ted, do you have any thoughts about it?
What's interesting about this story, I think, and this device, is that the things that are creeping down into the budget sector, which I think this is 220 quid's worth of phone, and it's got a 100 megapixel main camera. Now, it might be crap, fair enough, but it's got a 100 megapixel camera. It's also got a big battery, 4,500, and it's got 90 hertz refresh rate on the screen, and all of these little things make it kind of a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, whatever. You'd be thinking these are the things that you'd expect in flagships, not in a phone that's going to cost just over 200 quid. And so I think that's what jumped out at me with this story, is that it's a budget phone basically, but stuff is creeping down into the budget sector, which previously wasn't.
Well, that's where I think Honor really excelled. Their budget phones were extraordinary. Mm-hmm. They packaged in a very desirable package. And I can't remember, there was the Honor 8 and the Honor 3 and things like that. I've bought a few of them in the past, and I've liked them very much, and I've always passed them on to my daughter and my wife and let them use them, because they've had a really decent amount of features and things. Uh-huh. And I'm hoping that this is going to be something along those lines, and that camera has enough inside it just to give it a bit of an oomph for a budget phone. Because that's what people really do want. They want a phone and I want a camera. Everything else they can take or leave around that. Mm-hmm. They're the two main features, so if they focus on those, that could be a good solid thing. And it's running the MediaTek Helio G88 with either 6 or 8 gigabytes of RAM, so it should be decent enough with 90 hertz refresh rate. I think that's a nice
I
phone.
think the Helio G88 compares with the Snapdragon 695. So,
Yeah.
that I think you're right. That's going to be perfectly good for the target audience, if that's right. If I've got my data right on that. Let me know, dear listener, if I'm wrong on that. But that's as I understand it. It also looks as though this is headed for the UK market primarily, although it is being released in Malaysia and the Middle East. But, they're initially quoting the cost in the UK, and it looks like a UK thing. You can order it now, or you can pre-order it now. From their website if you want to. But yeah, it'd be a really good phone for a family member who's not kind of techie orientated like us, and it'll do a good job, I think.
Yeah, I can see a bunch of hip and wacky teenagers running around with a load of these, having fun, taking snaps of each other and handing their privacy over to everyone who should not see it. Right. Jerry Rig Everything has gone and broken down the Magic VS. He's torn it down and had a look at what makes this thing flip and fold. What can you tell us about it?
Well,
the
link in the show notes takes you to the part in the video where he just demonstrates the new hinge mechanism, and it does indeed look as though they've done something magic with it. And it's enabled it to fold right back on itself by the hinge mechanism and the way in which the springs work, and he demonstrates it quite clearly. So you get instead of a folding device like Samsung's, where you get a big gap at one end and a kind of a V-shaped thingy going on with a hole down the middle, you get it flat, and it looks like a Surface Duo when it's folded up or folded back on itself. Not the Duo 2, but it's flat, and I think that is a move forward for a folding screen. And kudos to Honor. I think that they appear to have done something quite magical here, which is why they've probably called it a Magic.
Well, I think they've been calling it Magic for a wee while now, haven't they? The previous one, the Magic V, was there too. But yes, they've taken the idea and made it a lot simpler and has a lot less moving parts, and it seems to be just as reliable. I'm not going to say slightly more, but I think this is going to be one of the more exciting folding phones that we're going to see.
Yeah,
very excited about
good,
it. Very excited indeed. Okay, the Pixel 7 Pro reportedly costs $413 for Google to make. And that uses 50% of Samsung's hardware, which I think is probably, that's about standard, isn't it? But then I don't think Samsung phones are 100% Samsung. They bring in a certain percentage of other hardware as well to make up their devices. But that was always the way of it, that we had the Nexus devices where Google would align with LG or Samsung or
Motorola,
HTC and Motorola and produce a device that was branded Google, but you knew very well that it was made by someone else. So given that Google doesn't exactly have massive factories in places that crank out devices, the device has to have a certain amount of pollutants from other companies. And in this case, 50% of it comes from Samsung. I had expected it would be more. What did you think, Ted?
I'm not surprised about that part of it. I agree with you. But what is surprising people is the amount of markup that that Google appeared to be making on this. And I don't know how usual that is or unusual that is. I don't have facts and figures in front of me. It may be true that every other manufacturer makes 100% profit on what they're doing. They make a phone. I mean, you've got to factor in distribution and marketing and retail and blah blah blah. All the knock-on costs into that. So it's not quite as it seems. They're selling a £400 phone for £850. It sounds like a right rip-off, but actually it's not. But what is a bit concerning is the next story. Scott Brady, our MeWe group member, has got a Pixel 7 Pro, and his volume rocker is falling off. And you think, well, who made that part then? That if they spent $420 instead of $413, the volume rocker might not have fallen off. Anyway, I was kind of thinking maybe Scott had just a unique duff item, and he would send it back and get it repaired. But actually, then the story started unfolding, and lots of people came out of the woodwork saying that no, this is common. And apparently, you can put it back in, you can clip it back in. I was reading last night, but if you press it too hard on one of the ends of the rocker, it will pop out again, and you've got to press it with this not too much firmness on either of the ends. But yeah, you can clip it back in. But it's a bit worrying, really, that this $850 phone that cost 400 and nothing to make has it got crappy parts as well? What do you think?
Well, yeah. When was the last time Google made something that had a fault like this?
I don't remember.
Yeah, me neither.
Yeah.
I think that maybe the Nexus 6P was probably their last really crappy device that wasn't fit for for being sold to people. But I would, these things can happen. You hear of Lamborghinis and Ferraris and things like that have little faults and things like that they need to get fixed and repaired.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate.
The trouble is, though, that Google apparently are quoted to be saying that, well, you know, it's user fault. That they're not kind of owning the fact that this could be a manufacturing fault at the moment. I mean, it may change. It depends how big.
It has changed. On the 10th of February, Google has responded to say the team is fully aware of the issue and will be getting back to them with anything new to share.
Okay.
Certainly sounds like positive progress, according to Nicholas Stuttrich over at Android Central.
Okay, fair enough. I didn't see that bit. Then hopefully they will do the decent thing if it becomes big enough, or even if it doesn't. Scott would like a new one.
Well, what they could do is they could send you a little sliver of Scotch tape, and then you just slip it around the side.
Super glue, yay!
Hey. Bit of blue tack, there you go, Steve. That'll work. All right. Well, moving on to the OPPO Find N Flip. This is one of the most exciting looking flip phones to come out in the last number of years, and the one that I would be interested in purchasing for my dear wife. I think she would probably rock this quite well. But it looks like it's coming next week, and it's going to be a global launch. That'd be kind of nice. There is a price attached, and that's £1,000.
Well, they're hoping.
Yeah, which is a bit cheaper than the Galaxy's options.
The pricing has not been formalised, but I think the story here is that we spoke about the Find N2 Flip before, but I think the story here is that they've decided to do a global launch on the thing on the 15th of February. When's the 15th of February? Wednesday.
3 days' time, Wednesday.
Yeah. And it will be in London at 2:30 p.m. and no doubt we'll be able to tune into it with the with that thing that's called YouTube that I'm getting fed up with, but that's another story.
Right, okay.
Yes. So yes, you're right. We did speak about it before. It looks very nice. It's a direct competitor to what Samsung are doing, but as we said before, it's got that big portrait outside screen that looks like it's going to have more capacity for data and stuff being shown on it. I just hope that the battery is not as crap as the Flip 3s that I've got here, which is, I did some testing this week on the Flip 3 battery, and it's just appalling. I opened the phone up, it was on 100% battery, opened it up, started reading the news and catching up with social media, and after 45 minutes it was down to 90%. Now, I do a lot of testing on phones. My 10% test in PSC world is quite something that people know about that I do. And I've been doing it for years and years. I give all the phones the same kind of playing field when I do that test. And this is the worst phone I've ever had doing this. I think the second worst was the Pixel 3 at one point, but this is the absolute worst. Anyway, so let's hope the Find N2 Flip is nothing as crap as that.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the bad takeaways from this is that the OPPO Find N2, which is the the sort of folding
Yeah.
phone, if you like. It's not looking that they're going to announce a global launch at this event. This is purely for the Flip,
Yeah.
which is a bit of a bummer. It would be nice to have that. I was thinking I could rock that Find N too, and my wife could rock the Find N Flip, and we'd look like quite the pair. but that's not to be. No,
Yes.
it's like his and hers phones. She could have the lilac one, I'll have the black one.
Wouldn't that be sweet, eh?
Yeah. But no, I'm not getting rid of my Pixel 6 Pro. I love it too much. Right, GSM Arena has put the technical boffins to work and come up with a 3D size comparison tool.
Yeah.
So if you're thinking about getting a new phone, you can take your old phone, stick it into the 3D size comparison tool, and measure it up against the phone that you're thinking about getting.
That's so cool,
And
isn't it?
you should be able to get a better idea of what size it's going to be in your hand. For instance, I took the Google Pixel 6 Pro that I have currently in my right hand, and I've now set down, and I compared it against the Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra just to see how ridiculously large the S23 Ultra actually was. And it wasn't that much bigger because the Pixel 6 Pro is still a pretty big device as it stands. I compared it against the Samsung Galaxy S23 standard version, and it's a lot smaller, quite a bit smaller, and I think that it would be a nice little form factor. But it's a very nice idea, just so that you know what you're getting into when you order a phone that is a different size to the phone that you have. Ted?
Yeah. It's just fascinating to play with this tool. It's not 360 degrees, it's 180 degrees, but you do get to see all sides of it, and you can go left and right, up and down, flip it whichever way you fancy, and it's just really cool, isn't it? You know, that good for GSM Arena. They've been at the forefront of comparison data on their website for years now, into decades, I think. And this is just one step further. Really, really cool. Well done, the guys at GSM Arena.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to go back, right? Let's take the... Oh, there's the BlackBerry Passport. Let's see if we can compare that. Do they do it with the BlackBerry Passport? Compare...
Apparently there's 700 phones they've done so far.
S23 Ultra.
And they're adding more to it as they go.
No, that doesn't work.
No. Put the...
Oh, well, what use is that?
Well, how about the Nokia N86?
Well, I was moving on to the HTC Wildfire.
I think they'll be down on the list somewhere, but 700, I guess, will be the most recent ones.
Oh, you want to do recent ones? Nah. Where's the fun in that?
Yeah.
HTC Wildfire. No device. Hang on a second. Oh, they've only got the HTC U11. What was the other one? BlackBerry. They've got the BlackBerry Key 2 or the Black Shark. Oh, the Key 2 versus the S23 Ultra. Just for shits and giggles. Search. Oh, broke it. Oh, no. There we go. No, nothing's coming up.
Oh, you can blow the screen up as well. Do you see that? That box, the little kind of box in the bottom right-hand corner of the graphic, it makes it full screen.
Right.
I haven't seen that before. Very, very cool. Very, very cool indeed.
Yeah, it's not working between the BlackBerry and the... I'll have to do that. I'll do it off air, so I'm not boring the listeners to death.
Too late.
Instead, we're going to aggravate the listeners by saying, see your Apple iPhone? Oh yeah, the USB-C functionality is going to be limited.
Mm-hmm. Very naughty.
So, yeah, there you go. You have to use proper Apple-branded stuff. If you try to plug it in, you'll get "this accessory is not supported" warnings all over the screen. Ted, does that not just make you annoyed? Does it turn you into the Hulk?
Well, if it's to do with their lucrative side business of only allowing stuff made for iPhone, inverted commas, as part of their licensing program, then I guess that is a bit annoying. But as always with Apple stuff, it's that they've got a closed environment, haven't they? A walled garden, and they do things their own way. They're obviously pissed off because they've been forced to adopt the USB-C. They didn't want to do that. So what they're saying is, well, if we've got to do this, we'll do it. But watch out, because all that you'll get with it is bloomin' charging, probably. And that's your lot. Don't expect anything else. That's what we've been forced to do. And if you
and headphones.
Yeah. So watch us as we plough on towards making our phones portless and buttonless, while we retain that little hole in the bottom that actually doesn't do anything except charging. Anyway, yes.
It's a good dust collection point as well.
Yeah.
Lets water in around the phone too. All right. Well, that's a bit of a shame, but progress is progress, and profits are profits.
Yeah.
Don't let the two affect each other. The name of the game. Ted, you've discovered a service that I've been talking about for years.
I installed this week. I thought, right, I better do this because you keep banging on about it. I installed Steam, which I had completely forgotten about. About 10 years ago, I opened an account. So when I tried to sign into Steam with a new account, it said, hang on, we know that email address. And sure enough, there was that one as well. And also, I signed up, or I thought I was going to sign up for the GOG service, and the same thing happened there as well. Sometime in the past I'd done the same thing, and furthermore I'd got purchases in there as well, so at some point I'd bought these things. Anyway, so I was having a look through, and I was playing about with SimCity 2000, which is one game that I remember from the past. That's on GOG for £1.29, although, as I say, I have already bought that thing. But actually, it was a bit rubbish to play with, because I put it up on my big widescreen curved monitor, and it kind of boots down into this DOS window, and it's so pixelated. I suppose what I need to do before I do that is to turn the resolution down on my screen so it doesn't look so stupid. But then I guess the window will be smaller then. I don't know, there didn't seem to be a way of resizing that. I played a snooker game on Steam, and that was much different, much better, and a few pinball games and all the rest of it. But yeah, so I've dipped my toe in the water of that, and I'm looking for you to advise me as to what in GOG and Steam I can get that would suit my gaming interest, which unfortunately is not the same as yours. So I should look forward to your recommendations.
Well, I have attached the list of free GOG games, and there's actually quite a plethora of them, and some of them are very good as well. Now, obviously, as you mentioned, our tastes are different. You like crap games, whereas I like good games. On that free list, there are a couple of crackers. There's Lure of the Temptress, Beneath the Steel Sky, and Teen Agent. Some really good quality graphic adventures. And I think you're looking more for Super Mario Brothers and Atari games from the 2600, aren't you? Pitfall Harry stuff.
Well, as you know, my background has been much more about Nintendo stuff, about Mario games, about platformers, and just simple. I think the difference is that I was used to a simple 2D world and not a graphically intensive, trying to be 3D and all fancy kind of gaming world. And whenever I try to play one of those new fancy 3D kind of graphic-y intensive worlds games, I just get bored really quickly. Like first-person shooters, you've got a gun and you're walking around or running around some compound and shooting people. And entertainment value for me with that is like 5 minutes gone. Whereas if you put me down in front of a pinball game, for example, or SimCity, I was playing SimCity, even though the resolution was crap, and I lost an hour doing that, building a city. It was great fun, and I really enjoyed it. So yes, Mario, Nintendo, or right back to early days of my gaming, which are much simpler 2D graphic gamings that you'd expect to see on Evercade, and things like Raptor that we spoke about before, or Boulder, whatever it's called. Things that are just simple and
Boulder Dash.
Not that's the one, yeah, and not I mean, you and your son, I think, just you're wowed by how great the graphics look. Unless you're in your Evercade mode, then it doesn't seem to matter. It becomes nostalgia then. Anyway, I've said all this before.
No. I've always. I remember being a kid and looking at the back of the Spectrum, Amstrad, and Commodore 64 tape games and going, which one has the better graphics back then? And since those days, I've realised that there's an awful lot more to a game than just the graphics. And I think of some of the games that I've played over the last number of years, like Faster Than Light is a particularly excellent one. I don't think you would like it in any way possible, but it's got very basic graphics, and it's all about the gameplay and the strategy of it.
Okay.
But I was having a look through GOG there, and there's an abundance of pinball games.
Right.
You can go on there and get your Pinball Wizard. Who sang Pinball Wizard?
The Who.
The Who.
Yes. And looking through that list of games, it'd be interesting to go through them and see what jumps out at me. There was one that we spoke about off air a while ago, which is a SimCity emulator called OpenTTD, and I have to agree with you. I think I could.
No, well, that's Transport Tycoon
Right.
Deluxe, but it's been tinkered with by the fans, so it's an open version of it that you can play for free, and it is one of the finest simulation games ever.
And that to me looks very much like SimCity or SimCity 2000, and I think that I could get lost in that for hours, particularly if the graphics are better than they were on the Steam version of SimCity 2000, which they look as though they probably are. So that's the kind of thing that I would be heading in for, and I should look forward to trying that out. I shall report back.
I actually installed that a couple of weeks ago whenever I realised it was free, and it's all been updated, so it'll work on a 4K display, and you can create massive cities, and it's fantastic.
Brilliant.
It's Open Transport Tycoon Deluxe. So it's free on GOG for anyone who wants to go and play it. It's a bit of a harkback, actually, if anything, that game.
Yeah, fantastic.
A lot of people loved it.
I like the look of that. I'll pick out a few of those from that list and report back and see how I get on with them.
Yeah. Why not? All right. Also coming out about now is a PlayStation emulator for Android of the PlayStation Vita.
Yeah.
Now, the PlayStation Portable, what was it, SSPP or something like that, or there were several S's and B's in there. It was very popular, and it was an ongoing process that I remember the first time it came out, and it must have been about 5 or 6 years. No, it'd be more than that. Maybe about 8 years ago. I was at a Christmas party and showed off a very early version of SSPP, and played Gran Turismo in front of some of my friends on the Android phone that I had, and they were just dumbfounded by it. But now you can do that with the PlayStation Vita, which is going to be able to... Well, obviously it needs a much more powerful handheld, or a device, or Android device, to run it, but it's coming, and I'm so pleased that it is, because so much of the Vita's game library can disappear quite easily because it's locked into Sony.
Who's doing this? Is it official?
No. It'll never be official. Right. Sony notoriously killed the Vita themselves. Yeah. It wasn't a success because they just... I don't think they wanted to do it. I don't know why they released it in the first place, but they sabotaged the Vita's launch big time. Mm-hmm. But the bringing it out and having it on an Android device with some sort of Razer style clamping game controller on the sides will be phenomenal, because these are terrific games. These are, I'd say they're PlayStation 2 quality games, but shrunk down onto that screen, the smaller screen, they'll look dynamite.
Brilliant.
Absolutely dynamite.
I remember having a PlayStation Portable at some point. I really can't remember when it was, but I did have some fun with it. But I was just still kind of baked into Nintendo at the time, so I switched back quite easily and sold it, I think.
Well, the flip side of this is that if you go out and buy a Vita off eBay or something today, it's actually one of the best emulator devices that you can get. Because you can now hack them. Mine is somewhat hacked and has a 512 gigabyte SD card in it, as opposed to the memory card that the proprietary memory card that Sony did.
Right. Yeah.
And it's got a bunch of different systems on it, but it also has access to the library, so you can go and get the games that you already own.
Right.
You can get games that you don't own as well, but that's naughty. It runs a lot of stuff up to about GameCube, kind of Xbox level, PlayStation 2, maybe even some lighter PlayStation 3 games very nicely. All of the PlayStation Vita library and the PSP. You can go and grab all that stuff. It's great. It's a really good... It's not the most comfortable device to use. I have a grip that it fits inside of. I remember Mike Manna from... Do you remember Mike?
No.
Steve Richards. He's a wrestler and does... he did Tech Today, the T4 show.
Right.
He was on Mobility Today years ago. He recommended this grip thing that went around the Vita, and I picked one up off Amazon. It was dead comfortable, and it became my go-to games console, just on the go. Yeah, it's a great device.
So what's this?
Ridiculous.
So what's this emulator called, and how can you get it, or can you not get it yet?
I don't know.
Oh,
if
it will launch on
yet.
Sunday, it says.
That's today.
Ah.
I imagine that, Sunday the 12th of February. So it should be out today from 11 a.m. Greenwich Mean Time, so it's been out for an hour and a half.
Oh, yeah. So
and you can get it from Mace Do on his Discord channel.
Oh, I
There'll
see.
be an APK file that you can sideload.
Okay, so it's not going to be on the Play Store. Yes.
No. There are some emulators on the Play Store, but if you pay for one, it'll get pulled eventually.
Yeah. Right.
I've bought them in the past.
Yeah.
Stupidly.
Very interesting. Well, I look forward to seeing what you think of this when you play with it this week.
Will I?
Yes.
Think?
Yes. Take one for the team.
I will. I'll have a go. See how it runs on the PlayStation or the Pixel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right. Next up is Nintendo's going to be adding some Game Boy and Game Boy Advanced games to the Switch Online, and I think there was another headline as well that Nintendo 64 games are there too. GoldenEye was released during the week, but I don't think it's quite as polished as it could be. It's got some ropey frame rates, and you have to do a lot of configuring to the controls to get it to be comfortable. But we can talk about that some other time whenever maybe someone's had a chance to have a go of it.
Yeah.
Ted, subscribe. You've got a Nintendo Switch.
I haven't.
Tell us all about
But
this.
I haven't subscribed to this because when I wasn't using it, when I first started playing about with this stuff, with the Switch, I signed up to it. It was £4 a month or thereabouts. And then I realised about 3 months later I was paying them £4 a month, and I just wasn't touching it. And so I thought, I won't bother. So anyway, I went in there and installed the Game Boy port and the Game Boy Advance ports and everything, and I did all the downloading and all the rest of it. Then, after I'd downloaded it and tried to get into Tetris to start getting all nostalgic, I suddenly realised, oh no, I cancelled my subscription. And so, I will do it. My homework this week, like yours is the PlayStation portable. My homework this week will do this, because you can sign in for 1 month and then just cancel it again. It's easy to do. So I will do that, and I'll start to play some of these Game Boy games, and I get all nostalgic. Hopefully some of the ones that I really remember really well are going to be there, if not coming along soon. But yeah, it's just all about nostalgia for me. Great fun.
There's a list there of some of the games. Tetris, Super Mario Land 2,
Yeah.
6 Golden Coins, The Legend of Zelda, Link's Awakening, Gargoyle's Quest, Game & Watch Gallery 3, Alone in the Dark New Nightmare, Metroid 2, Wario Land 3, and Kirby's Dream Land. So it's not exactly an extensive list.
No, it's not. And a lot of the ones that I used to play are not in there, like Mario Golf. I had great fun with Mario Golf. And Mario Tennis was fabulous. And the graphics are just appalling, but it's just all about, it's just nostalgia.
It's not all about graphics.
No, absolutely, it's not. And I should have just great fun rekindling that and playing it on my little portable Switch. What's it called? Oh yeah, Switch Lite, isn't it? Yeah, which sits in a drawer and doesn't get touched. I did charge it. I charged it up the other day.
Beside your Evercade.
Yeah, I charged it up the other day though, and it was on 0%, as you'd imagine. I shall try harder.
You must do. For the complete information, the Game Boy Advance titles are Super Mario Advance 4, Super Mario Brothers 3. That appears to be the title of the game. I can't say I know it at all, but it's maybe Super Mario Brothers 3 has been remade using the Super Mario Advance 4 engine or something, I don't know. WarioWare Inc., Mega Games, Kurin, Super Mario Super City, Super Circuit, Mario and Luigi Superstar Saga, and The Legend of Zelda, The Minish Cap. So yeah, there's that's a bunch of good-ish sounding games, or at least crowd pleasers. But I do wonder if they're maybe taking some away to put these in, if it's going to be that kind of affair, where they're not going to eventually make all of the library available to everyone, because that would be too much value. They maybe sort of swap them in and out, so you can only have about 20 available at any one time. I wonder if that's something they're planning on doing. Because I had a look at this wee library, and it was a wee bit messy before, where they had some at the top and then bigger pictures for some of the ones at the top, and then gradually smaller.
I don't think I'll care about that though. Once my nostalgia itch is scratched, then another 5 years time, and I'll want to have another go, even if I can't by then, because playing Mario Golf on a Game Boy is only going to be entertainment value for half an hour, and then it'll be gone again by then. So yeah, perhaps I should stick with GOG.
Yeah. You've got a controller there as well from your Stadia, or not from your Stadia days, but you bought one.
I did.
So yes, right. Flap your chop about the nap. Google's new credential manager is going to bring us closer to a passwordless future, according to Android Police. Have you had a chance to have a go with this, or understand exactly what it is they're going to be doing?
No. The answer to that is no. You can't really get to try this out unless you go into some kind of serious flag setting in Chrome and blah 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 and all the rest of it, and it's out there for developers really. But what I don't quite understand about it is how it's so different to what we've got now anyway. Because I use Google Password Control myself, and it all sits there in the Google Cloud, and it works all beautifully well. The Credential Manager API, I think it's designed to enable the flow of activity for developers and in a safe way. So that might be the difference. Is if a developer is developing a game, for example, puts it in the App Store, they can plug in with this API into Google's system and make those password control stuff going on, which Google are also talking about calling the passkey standard, working with Credential Manager and opening it up so that people can actually use the system, and everyone no longer is prepared to trust Google will have to think about passwords any longer. To some degree, I do understand there are problems with this at the moment. I know that I just said that I do use this and it seems to work, but there are some times when it doesn't. And I'll give you an example of that, is the TP-Link software that I installed this week. I told Google to save my password to the TP-Link thingy, and I went, so the next time I installed the TP-Link stuff on another phone to control that little camera and the smart plug, I went to sign in, and there was nothing from Google. Usually you get a pop-up that says, do you want to use your password, blah, blah, blah. There was nothing, and it didn't work. And I think that is because of some tick or box that the API is missing in third-party developers. And that's what I understand from this. And what they're trying to do is make sure that all of the ways in which people can access this is supported, a universal password system. But yes, at the end of the day, you still have to trust Google.
Well, if obviously you're not going to need passwords then on your Windows desktop or your Mac desktop.
Not if you're using Google services, no.
So you'd have to have your phone with you at all times to be able to sign in to certain things.
It's not very clear about how it's going to work, is it? It's in the early stages of Credential Manager. Apparently it's rolling out with Android 14, which is, and as usual with Google, they'll take forever to implement something. By the time they've implemented it, they'll be on to the new thing. So, I'm not sure, Gareth. I don't fully understand what this is all about, to be honest, but that's what I have been able to decipher from it. Anyone listening to this that understands this more, do let us know, and we'll come back to it and tidy it up.
I'm really concerned about the idea that certain brands could decide, no, we're not going to allow this. Like, say for example, Amazon has a pretty interesting sign-in method which can utilize your phone and your thumbprint and biometrics and stuff like that. Whenever you're signing in to the website and things like that, they can do things outside of a particular service. And I'm wondering if you're going to end up, some of your websites are supported by Google Credential Manager, but then other things do require a different type of passport that's going to have to still be baked into your Chrome experience or into a password keeper thing.
Don't know.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know. I've run out of understanding.
Of enthusiasm for the story.
Not enthusiasm, but understanding. I'm quite happy to try and understand it, but I've run out of words.
Okay, well that's a hard thing on a podcast. I suppose I frequently do it all the time. I'm always stumbling over my words and forget a word as soon as I start the sentence that I'm going to use the word in. So on that note, we can move along to how Google Search is going to blur explicit images by default for everyone in the coming months, which is kind of useful, I suppose, because if you do a search for things and then go to images, you never know when there's going to be a bit of porn that seeps through, no matter how innocent that search might be. It still manages to seep through on Google Images. Have you discovered this?
No.
To your horror?
I honestly, all joking aside, whenever I do a Google search, and I've got the safe thingy turned off, whenever I search on Google, I never see anything dubious like that. But maybe it's just because I don't go looking for, Jessica's Big Jugs or something. And if you did, you would see that stuff. But you can also, by default, this is going to be turned off in the coming months, but you can also turn it back on if you want to, of course. But who knows, in time, the EU might lock down on that and say to the Google, no, you can't let anyone see that. And suddenly there'll be a big brother watching everyone, and the democracy will go out the window. The end of life as we know it.
I can't remember what it was. It was a few weeks ago. I googled something, and I went over to images to see if I could grab an image, and I scrolled down, not finding the appropriate one, but all of a sudden there was a number of images that popped in that shouldn't really have been there. I did have my safe search turned off, but
right,
yeah,
let's do it. I'll do it live. Jessica Big Jugs. This is in my main account, not an incognito window. Jessica Big Jugs. Oh yeah, it's all over it, look. Blimey. And some, quite explicit porn as well. It's not just, just big jugs.
So that's the rest of the day sorted out for you then.
So, but honestly, it would appear that I just don't ever search on those because I don't see those kind of images. But those that do, as you say, you could stumble into it by searching on something that had a double meaning, for example. You didn't mean it to be that, but it could be taken that way. Yeah.
But in society, I think almost everything has a double meaning now. No matter how, it depends on how you say it, and that's how it comes across.
Yeah, fair enough.
Right. Well, enough of this rudeness and filth, and you can bookmark those sites for later. Google Maps Immersive View is rolling out in 5 cities. What is Immersive View? I don't think I've read this, actually.
This is, well, if you drill down into the information about it, I'm sure that we saw this years ago because Apple started doing it, and Google, I thought, had started. Do you not remember about, I can't remember how many years ago, but a goodly time ago, they were Apple Maps and Google were fighting for this. They were going inside cities and inside museums and inside cafes.
Oh, yeah.
You know, yeah. Well, this immersive view feature looks like it's just that. It's combining AI with Street View and aerial photography, 3D this and blah 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 that, it's offering people a way in which to kind of contextualize what they're doing, and if they throw the example in the pot about if you were planning a trip, you could get information including traffic, weather, how busy a location is, blah blah blah, and actually see it and fly over the buildings and in and out. I saw this years ago, and I'm not sure why. It's probably just because it's Google. It's taken so long to do it. But why didn't Apple do it? Or maybe the news here is that they've taken so long to do it, but they've now got it right, and it's going to be brilliant. And watch out if you live in those 5 cities. Don't know, but you obviously remember what I'm talking about.
I do. They had, was it Project Tango?
Yeah.
Or something like that. It was built into, there was a Lenovo tablet that it was built into first. And they were going through and they were mapping out the buildings using the radar, LiDAR thing. And then it was able to draw the maps inside the buildings.
Right.
And it was going to create Street View inside buildings. So the idea was if you wanted to navigate, if you were going to for a job interview on the 31st floor of the Ted Salmon Towers in Cardiff, then it would be able to take you exactly there. It would tell you which elevator to get into so that you would be able to map out your entire journey precisely.
Why did Project Tango fail? It required specialised hardware available from a limited number of devices, such as a Pixel, Pixel 2, and Asus Zenfone AR. It was discontinued, so that's probably why we didn't see it then.
Yes, that would be a good reason for us not seeing it if it discontinued.
Yeah, well, they're obviously having another go then, aren't they?
Well, yeah, why not? It was. I thought it was a fairly solid idea, and I think generally, I don't see too many people poo-pooing it. But no, I reckon that could be a rather sensible utilisation of the technology. Yes, Indeed. We'll go with that. Why not? So next up we have Flipboard. I remember Flipboard.
HTC.
Yeah, and it was on a tablet that I had as well.
Right.
It might have been a Samsung tablet or something. You swiped across to the left, and there was Flipboard. It's launching its Notes feature with iOS and Android. So Flipboard is still going, it would appear, and they're sticking out some new features for their thing. I haven't read this one either. I didn't do my research very well this morning.
This is another one this week that I went to try and open an account with and realised that I already had one. And so Flipboard I must have used back in the day. They knew my email address and so forth. It was I remember it being an HTC thing that they had to the left of the main screen instead of anything from Google, and it was like a magazine reading thingy.
Yes.
And I was trying to get to grips with. You see, they're positioning this as an alternative to Twitter for people leaving the platform that may want to come and make their mark in here instead. But from what I gather about this, and from what I remember about this, this is a article driven, almost like a newspaper, that their own staff will decide what to put out. You can follow themes and follow categories and whatever else, but essentially I don't think you can publish creative work on it like you could on Twitter or MeWe or anywhere else. You have to go along with what the news and the articles they're putting out in their magazine. What they're trying to say here is that once you find one of those, you can then, the new bit here is that you can dip into it and become a user, a commentator on the story that's been put out there by the people that do it. So I'm not sure quite how they're claiming that this could be scooping up ex-Twitter people, to be honest, because it's a very different tool. And I can remember back in the day with Flipboard, I tried it out and I just gave up on it because it wasn't very flexible and interesting. And that's the only difference that I can see in it now, apart from the fact that they seem to be quite serious about it because they've developed iOS and Android apps for it as well as the web.
Yeah, well, I'm having a look at Flipboard now, and I do remember actually using it quite a lot. You could set up essentially like a newspaper of your own interested articles,
yes,
or of articles that interested you,
yeah,
and people could subscribe to your stuff. Because I see that I have one, and there's a couple of people who are subscribed to it, and I've shared various news stories that we've talked about on the show, or that we might be talking about on the show some years ago.
But you couldn't create it yourself. It had to be a story that they had curated and put out there.
Well, yes, unless of course they were to pick up on one of the ones that you've published or something, because I see there's one here from Tracy and Matt some time ago. So that was quite popular, and it was shared amongst it. So it must have just popped up on the feed line,
right?
But yeah,
you can create a flip. So if you create a flip, new magazine. So you can create a new magazine. Like you, I got one that I did years ago called Pics. But I can't see anything that's in it. But yeah, you can create a new magazine. But I think that when you create the new magazine, you can only put into that new magazine stuff. You can't just go off to the web and find something. You've got to use something that is already within their walled garden at Flipboard, haven't you? Don't know.
I think so, yeah.
I remember giving up on it before, and it was an interesting idea. A bit like trying to use Google News Stand and that sort of thing. At the end of the day, you're at the mercy of their curators.
Very true. Yes, that would be right.
Yeah. Oh well.
So, well, I'd maybe give that a go as well and see how it's changed over the years. And maybe they might have done something to make it a more viable platform that people are going to want to use. Yeah. Maybe they've learnt, because they haven't been the talk of the town for a while, but I do remember them coming along and people being quite excited about what they do, and how they present the news. So
probably the star from HTC.
Yes. Actually, I think it was my brother first showed it to me, and he had it on something. And I thought, ooh, I need to get in on that. That looks good. Okay. Oh well. We'll investigate and have a go. Have a play. All right. Android's 14's new keyboard and touchpad feature is going to feature some great stuff for productivity. Features sound great for productivity, actually, of all things. Is it going to modify the tippy-tappiness of whenever you're pressing things?
No. Yeah, I think it's the features sound great. I think that's how you pronounce that. The touchpad features sound great.
Features. Oh, right. Okay. Yes. Gotcha. Now. Yeah.
This is.
Sorry. I was opening the link and trying to remember what the rest of it said while the link was opening.
This story is about a change in Android 14 coming, which is again aimed at tablets and broader screen devices on the back of the Android 12L experimentation that Google have been doing. And essentially, at the moment, what you get with keyboard uses is generally driven by the OEM. So if you've got a Samsung tablet, for example, and you've got a keyboard for it, then the Samsung would have made the stuff that you need to make all that work cleverly with the keyboard, or any other keyboard you might attach to it, or mouse or whatever, blah blah blah. I think the story here is that in Android 14 they're going to bake that stuff into the operating system, so that the OEM no longer has to attend to that stuff. It will all be part of what Google are doing, and it will be another kind of string to their bow of saying, look, we're serious about tablets and broader screen devices and wide displays, and we've worked with some of the apps. We're working on apps, but we're also working on keyboards and USB peripherals and Bluetooth peripherals and whatever else. And I think that's what this is about.
Okay, all right. Yeah. No, but it looks like a sensible, logical movement for Google here.
Indeed.
Yeah. Not too bad. Nice. All right. One of the more exciting features that feature in the feature phones of the company we feature quite frequently on this podcast is the Samsung Clock Face app that is now supporting Android 13 powered Galaxy. It's now supported by Android 13 powered Galaxy tablets. This is part of the Good Lock module, which you can download and from the Samsung store and get some sort of extended features for your Galaxy, whatever it is you happen to be using. But this is primarily for Galaxy tablets. Ted, have you had a go with it?
I have, and I put it on my tablet, my Tab S8. Good Lock installed, Clock Face installed, and it's working perfectly. And it works just like it does on my phone, my S21 Ultra, and my Flip 3, and it just works perfectly. So there's probably not a huge amount more to say about it, really. To be honest, I didn't realise that it was not on there already. The only downside of it, of course, is that on the tablets you don't get an always-on display, whereas with a phone, the Clock Face app will give you changes to your always on display. With this one, you only get it in the lock screen. So once you fire the display up and you see the lock screen, there it is, or there it can be. But yeah, always on displays are, well, as far as my Tab S8 goes, I don't think I can get an always on display. It is an LCD display for one thing, which wouldn't be great for battery. But I don't know, did you ever have a always on display on your Samsung Galaxy tablets?
No, I didn't. No. Or if I did, I never used it.
No.
But I remember the Good Lock module, and there was another one as well that I think you can get through it, or you use whatever it is to get the Good Lock module. It began with an N, but I can't remember what it was. It had a bunch of interesting little features that Samsung were kind of trialling.
I think they've rolled that into Good Lock now. I think basically Samsung own Good Lock, and it's their lab.
Yeah. And it's kind of things that they're looking to bake into One UI at some point in the future.
That's right, And it's good fun playing with Good Lock, and I have been doing that. There's loads of modules and stuff to play about with. A lot of it's kind of silly, and a lot of it's cartoony, and is aimed at kind of Japanese teenagers, I suppose. But there's also a lot of very good functional stuff in there. It's as we say so often on this show and others, Samsung is a really compelling argument to have as a phone and a tablet, and being baked into their whole system.
Yes, we do say that frequently. Moving into Chrome Corner, where things are happening. What's new with Chrome?
We're going to get lost again in this lot. Google announced Bard this week, an AI-powered chat GPT rival, which they completely screwed up on the demonstration, incidentally, but that's another story.
Okay.
And they're going to be putting that into search, as you would expect. Microsoft are there with their version, which is called, I can't remember now, what's it called? The new Bing.
Yeah.
It's got a name, I can't remember what it is. But
I can't remember.
the news for Chrome Corner was that Google are also working to bring AI chat to Chrome OS. Now, as usual with Chrome OS, people have found this by drilling down into code on the Canary and beta versions of Chrome OS. Nothing's been said officially, but they've found stuff going on in the background. And there was apparently there was a joke put in there which they were calling Brad. So instead of calling it Bard, they called Google developers called it Brad to try and put. It was one of their jokes, I think. But anyway, yeah, in the back end of the coding and all that, they're finding that Chrome OS has not been forgotten by Google, and with all this kind of chat GPT stuff, AI stuff going on at the moment, Chrome OS will get it as well. The other Chrome news was that they're going to eventually, years later, get rid of their custom share sheet for sharing inside Chrome. So it's a real it's been just there forever. All the other applications that you seem to use have got this standard share sheet, except Chrome that's got this crappy one that just doesn't look anything like it. So your muscle memory when you're using Chrome has to be different to most other apps and all the rest of it. So that I think they're going to try and bake this in as well. They're going to try and force manufacturers and developers into doing it the way that is not currently the Chrome way, and so that it's completely standardized. So I think that's really good, and the whole share thing will be kind of universal.
Yeah, okay. It would be great to see that. I know that some folks tend to like the one on Android as well, but it just annoys me. It never shows you what you want whenever you want to share something.
Yeah, there are kind of standard versions, but not. You see, developers don't have to necessarily follow them. They can do their own thing if they want to. I think a lot of app developers do follow the standard, but Google, their own Chrome is one that doesn't, and they stood out against any kind of uniformity in it, which is really annoying. But hopefully this story means that they will be changing that, probably in another year's time.
Quite right. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. See what comes of it.
Yeah.
Okay, the hark back section. Ted, you've got something to hark back about, and it's quite a nostalgic one, and it's a topical one too.
Something rather large. In fact, it's jumbo-sized. It is the Boeing 747. Now, this week, or the week before last, actually, it was announced that the very last Boeing 747 had been made and sold and rolled out to the buyer, who was, I can't remember now, Atlas Air. And that's it. They've decided that they have. It's done its time. It's lived its life. It's done its what's it. Now you'll probably have more of an input here than I have, because I've actually never been on a jumbo jet. But it's been so iconic over the years that I thought it was a legitimate hark-back. And when you start reading up about the history of the jumbo jet, incidentally, even though this is the last one rolling out. there are still tons of these out there, and they reckon that this last one that has been made is still going to be in service in up to 2050. So with a 30-year kind of lifespan. It's not going. The jumbo jets are not going to go away any time now. It's just that they stopped making them. So yeah, if you start digging about in Wikipedia and looking at floor plans and interior photographs and all the rest of it, I'll put some links in the show notes to all of that. But there's some interesting kind of historical data about the 747 and why it was called the 747 and what the conventions were all about and when the first one was sold, which was in 1969. And the way in which it was envisaged in the first place, and why the cockpit and the top platform were put on top of everything else, which apparently was because they had a view to turning this into a cargo carrying machine as well. So some models, they were going to the nose would open up, and they would strip out all the insides basically, except that top layer where the cockpit is and some accommodation. And everything else in the plane could just be a cargo carrying plane, and it was used for that in the years ahead of 1969. It nearly didn't take off, because initial orders were really low. Apparently, they had in 1 year they had 2 orders for one order for 2 planes, and that was from Aer Lingus, and they supplied those 2 planes, and then they didn't get any more orders. And then over the next few years, it started to grow and got better and blah blah blah, the usual kind of entrepreneurial thing. But yeah, really interesting stuff about what apparently one of the initial plans for the device for the plane was to have the pilots actually underneath the passengers, not on top, which you think might be like a air balloon or something, which would be really odd. So very interesting to kind of dig through the history. Look at the photographs, the amazing photograph of the cockpit inside, the layout of the I mean, if you ordered one of these planes, you could have it laid out pretty much how you like inside. But the standard kind of accommodation was the 2-aisle thing, which was the new thing, the first plane that had that. So you had 4 seats in the middle, 2 or 3 on the left and 3 on the right, and you got 10 across, and you had this huge amount of capacity to carry people in quite a kind of small space comparatively. And it all looked really, like it was very innovative and new, and it was. And yeah, really interesting stuff to delve through. As I say, I never went on one, never been on one, but I do like the look of the inside of it. I always wanted to be on one and to be a part of it, and it looked like great fun. I think that you have been on this many times, haven't you?
I only remember being on one once.
Oh, right.
And I think I was quite young at the time as well. I remember my parents taking me over to Disney Orlando, and we went via Boeing 747, and it was a big thing. My dad made a bit of a thing out of it, and I got to remember when you got to visit the cockpit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. You could do that before 9/11.
Yeah.
But I remember going up, and I vaguely remember. It could be my memory, or I've seen far too many airport movies, but I remember going up the stairs, which I believe were spiral, and there was like a cocktail lounge.
Yeah,
and you went through the cocktail lounge to where the pilot sat.
Do you remember who the operator was? Whose plane was it?
I think it was Pan Am.
Pan Am, right? Because as I said just now, that if you order one of these, you can have it laid out inside however you like. I think.
Ah, right.
Yeah.
Okay. Ah, yeah. Because my father's cousin, who he was very close to, her husband flew for Air Canada for many years, and he flew these as well. And I remember he was, whenever we saw him, he just looked class, because he was a proper airline pilot walking through with a suitcase and aviator sunglasses, and he'd flown for the military the years before, so he kind of that cool suaviness about him. But I've got a funny feeling he might have been on this with us as well.
Right.
and he took us up into the cabin, and we were having a look around the cockpit and stuff. And I don't remember it well enough because I was maybe about 8 or so. I don't think I'd reached 10,
Right.
but it was very vague memories. But I remember I think the seats could twirl round as well.
Mm-hmm.
When you were sitting in one of the areas, which was probably the cocktail lounge, if anything, and you could twirl the seats. And I've never been on a plane since that has had a seat at a different angle to the way that they generally point.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I can't really say that I've been on one, but I have been on one. I just don't remember it
Oh, what a shame.
terribly well.
You can.
Yeah.
Do you know you can buy one? If you want to buy a used jumbo jet, there's one on sale. There's one for sale in Japan at the moment, and the asking price is $7 million.
Wow.
So you can actually buy one if you've got somewhere to put it. You can.
There's if memory serves, I always rattle on about the actor Bruce Campbell, but I believe there's a man called Bruce Campbell, not the same actor, or not the same as the actor, who lives in a plane.
Oh, right.
Because I think I watched a documentary about him. Yeah, Bruce Campbell, 73, lives in a Boeing 727 200-passenger jetliner somewhere in America.
Right.
Don't know what state. Doesn't say. I can't see it off the top of my head. But yeah, so you could buy one of these and live in them.
If you've got somewhere to put it.
Yes, yes. It is quite sizable. But you could take the wings off. You're not going to be using them.
Kind of spoil it a bit, wouldn't it? You might as well get a static caravan.
But that's much bigger. It's the same idea, yeah.
Yeah. It's just so iconic, though, isn't it? All my life, all my adult life, certainly. Well, I was born in '63, so this came out about the same time as the Concorde, or a bit after the Concorde, and I just always remember jumbo jets being the plane, and that iconic lump on the back of it, on the top of it. Was just always, and I can remember going to airports, and when it was a big event to see the 747s take off and land. They were just massive, and they had these huge landing gear wheel thingies, which were just bigger than anyone else's. And you think to yourself, how on earth? A bit like watching a Hercules take off. How on earth is this getting off the ground? It's huge, and I think that as a hark back, For both of us, it sounds like it. For most of our lives, they've just always been there, and they've been the plane.
Yeah, actually, on that note, the largest plane in the world? I saw it fly over my house a number of weeks ago. I heard it coming.
The Airbus.
I was like, what the heck was that? No, it's a Russian plane, but it's used by the Ukrainians. It's the Antonov AN-124 Russian.
Sounds like you looked it up.
It's called. No, I've just jumped on to ADSB Exchange, which is a sort of flight tracker thing.
Right.
Yeah, the Antonov AN-124. It's the largest plane in the world, I think.
Wow.
But it's insane. And it landed in Belfast. It flew from Ukraine over to Belfast. And it was noisy. Everyone was like, what the hell was that?
Yeah.
And I got to see it flying in.
Was it a military, is it?
No, I think this is. I think it's a commercial one, but it was picking up supplies for Ukrainian people. The nose of it opens up, and I think the back end opens as well, and it's just a giant fuselage with engines attached to it that you can stick whatever you like in. Yeah,
very nice.
Planes.
I would love to.
Planes are fun.
I was going to say I would have loved to have gone on one, but it's not too late, I suppose. I mean, I don't particularly want to go flying, but if they're still going to be kicking about for another 30 years, people can still enjoy that experience.
Yes, you could book a flight from where's your local airport to Heathrow. Might be able to.
Yeah, Liverpool, I suppose.
Get on. Yeah.
I don't suppose that jumbo would take off in time.
No. I think it's got to have a special type of runway. It's so big, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think so.
Because I don't think they can land at Belfast City Airport, but they can land at the International Airport,
right?
Which has a bigger runway. Yeah.
Very, very interesting, though.
True that. All right, I've accidentally closed the show.
Oh, what a buffoon!
Absolutely. But they're back open again.
Oh, good.
They're just ruining the magic for the folks who are listening at home, or outside of the home, or on the way to work, or out for a run.
Yes.
Get ranting. Okay, bargain basement. We're going to start with Mr. Ted Salmon with his first offering.
InEU portable charger. InEU portable charger. 65-watt charging power bank. 25,000 milliamp hours, which is one reason why I pricked my ears up, because a lot of these power banks tend to be like 20,000 or 10,000 or 12,000, but 25,000 is a good size. USB-C ×2. One of them gives you the 65 watt and the other one gives you the 30 watt. There's a USB-A that gives you 22.5 watts. And this has been reduced. Well, the other day it was reduced by a ridiculous amount, but unfortunately that now has gone. It started off as £105 on release, which was some months ago. Yeah, it's a bit over the top, wasn't it? The usual price is about 50 something quid. But the other day, yesterday in fact, there was a 40% voucher off of that, and it made this thing 27 quid, and I couldn't resist it. I just bought one because even if I keep it to give to someone for a Christmas present or something, it's worth for 27 quid. Get one. But unfortunately, today we've noticed that the 40% voucher has gone away, and so it's back up to 45 quid. So it only represents a saving of 8 quid. But it does still look like quite a good one, and it's got an LED or LCD display on the outside telling you what it's up to, and yeah, it looks quite nice.
Yeah, it's a nice looking device. Obviously, it doesn't ship to Northern Ireland because it's pricks.
Yeah.
But if you go to see the images and you go to the third one down, charge 3 devices simultaneously.
Yeah.
If you have a look down at the bottom right hand corner of that, you've got an iPad with an iPhone set on top of the screen by Mr. Reckless.
Oh, there might be some rubber underneath it though.
No, that looks like a proper iPad, and if it's been dropped any, there might be a wee nick in the metal, and if he gets a message and it'll buzz, it'll mark the screen.
No, but there might be a rubber thingy under the phone, is what I meant.
Why would you do
I
that?
don't know, so that you didn't scratch your screen in your iPad.
No, this person seems particularly reckless.
Does look nice though. I don't think you'll get 65-watt charging if you do that with it, because the charging will be shared across the outputs. But if you just plug in a 65 into the USB-C, you should get 65.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Lovely. It's a very nice looking device, that. Okay, we're going to go back to Honor here, because I discovered, I've never seen this before, the Honor Pad 8. Now, get this. This is a 12-inch Wi-Fi tablet with 4 gigabytes of RAM and 128 gigabytes of storage, a 2K full-view display with 8 speakers.
8 speakers?
And it runs Android 12. Yeah.
Wow.
This thing's kick-ass, aside from that 4 gigabytes of RAM, which could be a wee bit more. But I'd like a 6 if they had the well, I suppose I haven't checked the listings to see whether or not there is a 6 gigabyte RAM version. But this is only £200. That's fantastic.
This is running Android.
8 powerful speakers, long-lasting battery, which is a 7,250 milliamp hour battery. It's running the Snapdragon 680 processor inside. It's got Honor Magic UI 6.1 on Android 12. And if you have a look at which one was it? The fourth image, 1, 2, 3, 4, fourth image. It's got multi-screen collaboration, mobile phone and tablet operation on the same screen.
Very, very cool.
I think that's a beezer of a deal. I'd have one of those if I didn't have one on Lenovo.
I seem to remember this coming out a while ago, and but the reason I remember is because it's got their software across the front. If you look at the first picture, it's got that kind of Apple cloned front end. Long before Google started messing about with Android 12L, they've put a dock on it. They've tried to make it very Apple-ish, haven't they? And I seem to remember that coming out. But I do like the sound of the 8 speakers. That sounds great.
It also has 22.5 wired charging, watt wired charging. and using the Honor charger and cable, you will get slightly faster charging speeds than if you didn't use them.
Mm-hmm.
14 hours of listening to audiobooks.
Snapdragon 680, which should be decent.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's cracker.
Good,
I'd like one of those.
Very nice indeed. It's a shame that, as you say, neither of us need or have a space for one. But there you go.
If I broke my Lenovo tablet tomorrow, I could justify it. 200 quid's pretty good.
Worth an accident, isn't it?
Yes.
We're back to in you again, and a wireless charger. I'll start that again. A Qi wireless charger bedside stand times 2, so you get 2 of these. 15 watt wireless charging, not fast wireless. It's slow, but it's got this kind of sleep friendly light on the side of it, which when it's you can turn it off if you want to, but it comes on when it's charging. Anyway, these two were supposed to be 42 quid, and now they're 22 quid, or they were yesterday, and they're now 25 quid. So even so, it's still 41% off, and they're actually very good. I've been using my one by the bed for a good while now, a few months, because my old one broke, and that's it's done really, really well. So recommended.
15 watt charging, fast charging there for the LG, Google, and all that.
It's not fast charging.
It says it is.
Well,
15 watt
it's
fast
faster than
wireless
it's
charging.
faster than 5 watt, and it's faster than 10 watt, but it's not 240 watt, is it?
No, it's not. But it might be a wee bit of a different price bracket there.
Yeah.
No, that looks very nice.
They are nice.
You can get one for £18 or two for £25.
Yeah.
Good.
They are. They're a nice, attractive little unit, and I quite like having that little light on it. Some people would hate that, but it's quite a nice little night light.
Yeah, because we all know that you do get scared of the dark when you hear those scary noises.
I do, particularly when you send me recommendations for scary horror films.
Terrified. All right. Now, I almost bought this the other day. Yesterday, in fact, yeah. And I still have it sitting in my basket. I haven't quite clicked on it yet because I can't really justify it, but I've spent too much money this month anyway. Western Digital 18 terabyte Elements desktop external hard drive. We feature these quite regularly, but this is down from £453.99 to £249.98. What a cracker of a deal. That's a heck of a lot of storage. It's not the fastest storage, but if you've got movies to back up from DVD to Blu-ray and things like that, as I do, these are really, really handy.
And you get 2 terabytes free. Because the price is exactly the same as the 16 terabyte price. What mad pricing is that?
Oh, yeah. Maybe they made a typo there.
Yeah. They are nice. I've got the 16 terabyte one, and it's just fabulous. Occasionally, when I go, because I run my Plex from it, occasionally, if I've not been using it for a while, I go to put the telly on, the Roku, and I fire up something to watch on my my drive, and occasionally there's this delay that goes on, and you know what's going on. It's resting, and it's had to spin up the drive. And it's just not instant access. So you're quite right. It's not the fastest, but it's perfectly good.
Oh no, it works perfectly well, but it spins down. That saves the platters, and it saves electricity as well. Yeah. So it's not constantly being accessed. You don't want that. So it's better that it does that. Yeah,
indeed. Pixel 6 Pro. That's what you've got, isn't it? Have you got the 128 gigabyte version?
I think I do. Maybe.
I don't think I've ever seen it as cheap as this. This is the 449 quid. It's about the same price as it cost them to make it. 849 quid this started out at, and it's now 449 on Amazon. So I would recommend that because it's just really, really good price, and I don't think I've seen it cheaper. But you've got some more Pixels.
I did, yeah, but that's a really good deal. 449, that's pretty terrific. There's the Pixel 6a is also on sale. It does seem, Amazon's just doing a sale on Pixels generally. The Pixel 6a is down from £400 to £276.61p, which is not exactly a round number, but I think if you're looking for a 6A, that might be the price that's going to attract you, if anything, if you haven't bought one already.
Definitely.
And the Pixel 7 Pro is also down in price as well, from £849. This is the 128GB version as well, to £678 and 43p.
Ooh.
But I am noticing that of all those, if you click on the Pixel 6 Pro, it says there's a trade-in and save.
Oh, right.
The Pixel 6 7 Pro does not have the trade-in and save option. Neither does the Pixel 6a.
What I was going to say there was that the Pixel 7 Pro, the last one you picked, I've been offered 12 months payments on that from Amazon. But not on the other ones. Yeah, it's a shame. It's a shame it's not 256.
It is. It is. That would be much better. Is the 256 there?
No.
Oh, it's 840.
Yeah, you can't really do that. You can get it in hazel, can't you? Hazel. No, that's still. Oh yeah. They are offering 12 months on that as well. So the Pixel 7 Pro 256 in hazel, £70.75 a month. No discount, but you can pay over 12 months. Well, I can.
Yeah, it's a bit weird that it's not offering the trade-in and save offer on that as well. That would be tempting at that price.
Yeah. Particularly if you had something to trade in and save.
Yeah. Quite right.
Anyway, there's your Pixel bunch. And the last one was this Soundcore Motion Boom Plus, which we featured yonks ago when Anker were about to release it, or Soundcore were about to release it, because they were offering 50 quid off. They were releasing it 190 quid. They were offering 50 quid off if you gave them £1. And I did it, if you remember. I sent them £1 and I reserved it, and I never bought it. But you could, the price to early buyers was then going to be 50 quid off, which made it 140 quid. But now I notice that it's been reduced for everyone to 120 quid, 119 quid. And it is a real beast. If you were a kind of partying type that went out with your mates down the beach, it's got 20 hours of playtime, waterproofing, IP67, USB-C charging both ways, so you can charge other devices from it. You can use the app to use the custom EQ and all that. Bluetooth 5.3, 80 watts of power, blah-de-blah-de-blah. It's, I'd love to have a need for that, or a want for that, or a lifestyle for that. Go and blast everyone's earlugs out down the beach or something. Fantastic.
Terrific, yeah. It has been cheaper.
How is it?
It was cheaper on the 19th of January for a day.
One day.
Oh, no. No, it was the same price as it is today. Right, okay.
Yeah.
It's been at this price before, once, for one day.
Yeah.
But they must have sold 1 million and decided to do it again, because it's a damn good-looking speaker.
It is, yeah. I remember at the time I was tempted, but I thought, no, this is just silly. I don't need it. I got about 2,000 Bluetooth speakers, but it does look very nice.
Oh, so you do have space for another one. Right. I get 2 of them and then link them in the stereo.
I've already got 2 Soundcore speakers that I do that with. I don't need any more. And they're Motion Plus.
Well, you could upgrade them to this.
No, away.
You sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
All right, well, that about brings it to an end. Now, we're going to be back on the 26th of February. That's what month we're in now, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And yeah, so listen for us then. If in the meantime you want to get in touch to cry or just to talk about how you're not able to get the Tech Addicts podcast next weekend and how you're going to get through, then Ted's email is... or else you can go with me, which is Gareth at techaddicts.uk. You can also find us on Twitter as well, at techaddictsuk. I'm on Twitter too, at Gareth Miles, GarethMyles. I'm on Mastodon as well. Maybe I should put a link into that, because I do prefer scrolling through that now than I do Twitter, because Twitter's just... I've got my GarethMiles.com as well, and there's a Ko-Fi as well if you fancy buying me a coffee to help me through these early mornings and late days. But instead of that, you could actually buy Ted a coffee instead. Where can they do that?
They can do that at paypal.me/Ted Salmon, and I would appreciate that very much. I've also got a Mastodon account going, but I haven't got a quick link to it. I'll try and put one in the notes just in case, but I also do quite enjoy finding my way through that. TedSalmon.com is where you'll find all my stuff, links to all my audio podcasts and all the MeWe groups. So do come and join us in the MeWe group, particularly the Tech Addicts one, which needs some traffic. So links in the show notes, or if you get lost, TedSalmon.com. I think I've said enough.
Excellent. We'll catch us all in 2 weeks' time for another action-packed thriller-rama type thing.
Yes.
Bye.
Hello.